So this is how to make the graphs that you need to do for day 2 of the Crystal Violet lab using Microsoft Excel. What I did is I went over to Excel, and you can actually follow along a little bit with the back page of the lab itself. Notice the first thing I did is I have section headings of time, absorbance, concentration, natural log of the concentration, and then 1 over concentration. Time, I started with 0. You can actually just figure out what the molarity of this solution when you first put it in the 100 milliliter volumetric flask. But then after each minute, you can record the absorbance from the spectrophotometer. Please keep in mind you should take the sample out of the spectrophotometer each minute so the heat from the light does not affect the reaction. Now we have to learn how to use Excel. I'm on cell C3 right now. I want to take the absorbance value here, use the equation from last class in order just to give me a value. So I hit equals. That tells Excel I'm doing an equation. And I'm using the example from what is written on, times B3, what is written on that sheet, plus 0.466. So, if this is the absorbance, this is the concentration. Nifty thing about this is I click on that cell, notice in the right-hand corner, bottom right-hand corner, there's a little box. I click on that and drag that down. It will continue that equation for all of these values. Moving over to the natural log, equals natural log of, that would be C3. Takes the natural log of the concentration. Equals 1 over C3. You could always set this up ahead of time. Remember, you get your y equals mx plus b equation from day 1, but you want to solve it for x. That's what this equation is right here. You could plug that in ahead of time, so if you're doing the lab, your partner just calls out at time 8, the absorbance is 0.102. It makes all those values happen for you. 0.093. 0.082. It'll change them for you automatically. So now that we know how to set up this, the next thing would be to make our graphs. Recall that we want to see which graph is linear between time versus concentration, time versus natural log, and time versus 1 over concentration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight my data points. To highlight another column that's not next to it, push down Control and then click and highlight. Okay, so now I have my 2 columns that I need to get. I'm going to go back to my XY scatter. Here's my graph. Once again, you can add axes titles, you can add the trend line. If you double click on the trend line, you want to keep this linear. And you want to display the equation, although the equation is not too important to us here. What's more important is the r squared value. And I'm going to move these down a little bit then, because the r squared value is going to tell us how close to linear is this. Keep in mind that I just made up these values. So there's one chart that you could do. If I go back to here again, I could highlight here. I could highlight here. One of the things that you are able to do then is you could always copy and paste this into a document if you wish. Really, that r squared value is telling us how linear is that. Or the more linear, the more likely it is. So make sure to include chart titles as you're doing this as well. Otherwise, that is how you need to set up your Microsoft Excel graphs for day 2 of the Crystal Violet lab.